We are reaching into the vault again today, and we're going to do the Mermaid Mosaic nail. This was from late last summer, so I figured it was appropriate. Let's do it for the start of the nice weather this year. This is a bubble nail, and it just reminds me of the beach and breezy, nice summery days. And don't be alarmed, the audio is going to suddenly sound different because it's a different mic I had back then. Our very first step is making our bubbles. We want about a teaspoon of dish soap, about a teaspoon of vegetable glycerin. Oh, look, I'm already interjecting. I was telling you way too much water. It's really like a half a cup. Whatever you're putting it in, you need enough space to be able to whip bubbles in it. The glycerin is super important. This is what gets you some larger bubbles in there, and this is what makes the bubbles more stabilized. So you can set this aside. The bubbles won't pop, but it will slowly, the water will kind of drain off of them and you will get drier bubbles. And that's what makes it easier to then apply to the nail and not have it slough off as much. The other key to your happiness with this technique is actually using a fan brush for this. It works great to whip the air into the bubbles to get the larger bubbles. Plus, it's the perfect applicator because the bubbles really stick to it because of the hairs of the brush for when you are trying to then apply it to the nail. Okay, once our bubbles are made, we are setting that aside, and we are not going to re-whip that up at all because we want the water to drain to the bottom. Okay, on to the nail. We are starting out with 2 base coats of flowing light white. It's Born Pretty 77, a really nice, super fine silver cat eye. Any super fine clear cat eye will work for this. And I'm doing 2 coats of this because I want as much silver reflective qualities as possible, because this nail really is a play on the silver background against the blue cat eye we are using on the bubble layer. And I'm not filling in a huge amount with the accent colors. Okay, we cure those 2 bottom layers and we are already on to the layer that is going to get the bubble treatment. Our beautiful blue is called Hidden Lagoon by Gaoy. I love this cat eye. It is such a gorgeous turquoisey blue. It's 3150, the actual number. We're just doing a nice even coat on this and then getting out our bubbles that we have not refluffed. And then we are going to start to apply the bubbles with our fan brush. And we are hoping to get larger bubbles on this nail. So you may just have to experiment around and see what you can get. And this bowl of bubbles was an old one that had been sitting on my counter from another nail, and it was behaving a little weird. Sometimes I think it does matter if you do a fresh batch of bubbles. These were popping really quickly on the nail, and I kind of had to keep getting some bubbles on there. It worked, but just so you know, sometimes they do weird things. And ideally, you don't want them to sit on the nail too long because they will start popping. So once you've got it covered, stick that puppy in your lamp and let it cure. Okay, and this is what we should have once we've done a full cure on that. And if you can see up close, the polish gets sucked up into the bubbles. It's all that capillary action. So we need to clean this up before we start the next phase of the nail. And if I have a lot on there, sometimes I will take a nice sharp little pair of scissors and kind of trim the excess. And then I go in with a file. But I am just trying to get the furry bits. I just want a clean feeling. I like to call this a cell matrix. I want those cell walls to still be there because I'm putting gel into them next, but I don't want it all messy. I just want a clean, crisp bubble cell matrix look to it. I like using a fairly fine file to do this work because it's super easy to file too much of those cell walls away. And once you think you've gotten all the fuzzies off of there, you want to clean it really thoroughly with rubbing alcohol. Now you have to be careful because your little cleaning pads can really easily stick to this still because you have that raised surface. So you kind of have to pat at it, or if you have a squirt bottle with rubbing alcohol, and if you want, you can even take it to the sink and scrub it with soap and water with a scrub brush, or an alcohol and a scrub brush, just to get everything clean because you don't want the dust in there. And I'm just doing a little quick comparison with my original nail to remember what I want to do, the colors, because it's going to be really hard to keep yourself from wanting to fill everything in. Ask me how I know, because I constantly want to do it. It's so hard because it's going to feel like you haven't done enough on the nail, but when you get the top coat on, all of that silvery from underneath and the blue cat eye, that we've done the bubbles in, starts sparkling as well. Okay, this first one is 2155 Gaoy from their colorful Galaxy cat eye collection. The second one is also a Gaoy polish. It is a glitter and cat eye. It's from their Starlight Veil collection. That was the green one. This deep turquoise is from Born Pretty's a little collection called Starry Glass. It's number 3. Doesn't really have a real number, so you're looking for the Starry Glass collection. And that glitter polish before this one was really nice because it also has little holographic shreds in there. It's not just glitter, so it has a really nice effect. And these next two are from a very fitting collection called Mermaid Tears from Gaoy. And we're just using the blue and the green, and they're just really nice Aurora cat eyes that have a pretty much clear background. And a lot of times these clear Aurora cat eyes, the particles don't move that well. But these guys, at least when you're doing them in small splotches like this, I found they moved okay, which was refreshing. And this last one, which we do the least of, but just sort of as a different opposite kind of color, is Rustic. It's from Gaoy's Rustic Amber collection, but it's also in the Sunshine collection. The number is, I think, 2955 it was on there. And that's just a good goldeny sparkle. And again, this just gives you an idea of the range of colors I am using on this nail. I'm really sticking to a blue-green palette. So it does not have to be these exact colors that I'm using. You could use less colors than this. You could use more. But just so you get an idea. It's these sparkly, green, oceany blues. And then just a little bit of an accent with some goldeny colors because that plays off the blue-green. And I'm going to do my more richer blues in some of the larger cells that I have, since it's sort of a blue-based nail. And again, because we're using all cat eyes, and I want each of them to have their own little cell of shininess and sparkle, I am activating each one, and then I am just flash curing it for a couple of seconds just to keep those mag particles from moving when I do the next little splotch of cat eye. And so we just keep moving across the nail and just strategically, artistically deciding where we want stuff. So you just sort of sprinkle things around in some natural feeling patterns around the nail. And if you have all of your polishes laid out on a palette like I do, make sure when you're using your UV flash cure light, you are pointing it up in the air or in the opposite direction of where your polishes are sitting out in the open so that you don't cure those as well. And here I'm getting pretty close to what I want to have, and you can see it's not, there's still a lot of open areas on that nail. Oh, and I kind of forgot to mention, if you've watched the other bubble tutorials, a lot of times we have a very complicated, like you're putting a certain amount of gel in there because then later you're going to file back and then, do a thin chrome top coat and add chrome, or, there's like several layers to this stage. This nail, we are not doing that. We just prep our bubble matrix, our original layer, then we do our accent colors, and then we're just going to top coat. We're not even going to bother to file back to re-expose any of that blue cell matrix line work we have. This is what I have, and I'm calling this good for all of my extra little colors in there, and I'm just going to top coat this now. And if you find that you have still some real high points on the nail that are just going to make it lumpy when you top coat it, you can go ahead and file that back. It's not going to kill the nail or anything. So I'm going to do my first coat of top coat, and then I am going to file it back because I like having smooth nails. But I'm only filing to make the nail smooth. This isn't any like design part of it like it has been on the other ones. So this is just to remove lumpiness. And I'm going to try to not expose all the work I just did. So
just a light sanding so that the second top coat goes on and you get a relatively smooth nail. And here is our finished nail. And it may also help to use a slightly thicker top coat on this too. So we've got our blues kind of taking up the larger cells, and then our brighter accent colors in smaller cells so they're not overpowering the nail. And then we can put the two nails together to see. Now I got much bigger cells on the original nail. I like both, but just so you know, you're going to get variety with this whole bubble nail thing. And you can also play around with, when you want larger, more irregular shaped bubbles like that center one, sometimes using the bubbles right after you've mixed them and not letting them sort of, quote, dry out can get you these weirder shapes. It's going to be harder to keep the bubbles to stay on the nail. They tend to like just slide off, but just experiment. See what is giving you the right bubble look. And on these nails, I really used the Aurora blue cat eyes, more like on the bottom, sort of the bottom smile of the nail, and sprinkled here and there because it just sort of gives it that a nice glowing blue effect to it. And then you have the brighter pops of the green and that gold color. There you go. It's the Mermaid Mosaic nail. My little farewell to summer weather and nice oceany blues.